I died in the year I loved him most. With a fortune of hundreds of millions. He said he would abandon it all. He accompanied me into the flames. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to 10 years ago. We had just gotten married. And it was the time I hated him most. I ran to his company and, upon seeing him for the first time, choked out, "Alex. I'm sorry." He paused briefly, his expression solemn, and said, "Go ahead. How are you going to torment me this time?" When the final explosion occurred, I remember that Alex didn't come out. He, who was always neat and tidy, knelt beside me and said, "Madison, don't be afraid. I'll be with you." He was 38 years old that year. He had a fortune of hundreds of millions, which he said he would abandon. He stayed with me as we were consumed by the flames. On a midsummer evening, the setting sun outside the window was as red as blood. A stuffy breeze blew into the room. I woke up from my dream and sat on the bed, lost in thought. The alarm clock in the corner ticked away, and the calendar lay quietly on the desk. Mrs. Reynolds. Mr. Sure just called. He said he won't be coming back tonight. Martha's voice came from the living room, calm and peaceful. I looked down at the brand new wedding ring on my ring finger. I closed my eyes. I had returned to 10 years ago. The raging fire before my death and the warm, sturdy embrace felt so real. In his last moments, Alex had said to me, "Madison, don't be afraid. I've waited too long for you in this life. In the next life, I'll come find you sooner." Was this a dream or reality? I pinched myself, feeling a dull pain in my thigh. The sound of a car horn outside snapped me out of my daze. After the initial shock, a wave of relentless heartache and bitterness washed over me. A misunderstanding caused by someone else had made me hate Alex for many years. During that time, his competitors used every means at their disposal to suppress him. He couldn't breathe. At home, my coldness toward him made him rarely come back. Alex's parents had passed away early, and he had no close relatives. He spent most of his life alone, guarding a business empire. Later, the misunderstanding was resolved. We had a few months of happiness, and even had a child. Unfortunately, before I could tell him about the pregnancy, he died tragically. Mrs. Reynolds, the flowers have arrived. Are you ready to leave? Martha came in to ask me. What? My mind was still in chaos. Flowers? Aren't you going to visit Mr. Parker? Ryan Parker. Hearing that name suddenly, I froze. A thread emerged from the tangled mess. So it was this day. Ryan Parker was my childhood friend. He was also a very talented actor. Unfortunately, an accident left him with severe burns over his entire body, requiring him to stay in, not replaced, for a long time. On this day in my previous life, I had gone to, not replaced, with a bouquet of flowers. After spending Ryan Parker's birthday with him, I left, not replaced, and saw Alex sitting in the car, his cigarette burning down to the filter. Yet he didn't notice. I didn't want to explain anything, or even see him. Maddie. Alex noticed me, extinguished the cigarette, got out of the car, and spoke in a melancholy tone. Today is my birthday. I stopped in my tracks, turned around, and coldly stared at him. So what? Alex's dark eyes fixed on me. Saying nothing, I said, "Today is also Ryan Parker's birthday. To marry me, you resorted to any means necessary, disfigured his face, and ruined his future. How do you expect me to treat you?" Alex opened his mouth, but all that came out was, "It was just an accident. If you hadn't invited him that day, he wouldn't be lying in the hospital now." How can I believe it was an accident? Alex fell silent. then finally said to me, "I'm sorry." From that day on, my relationship with Alex took a sharp turn for the worse. A long and agonizing Cold War began. Later, I found out that the accident, which even Alex believed was an accident, was just a plot by certain people to drive a wedge between us. "Your things have been placed in the car. If you leave now, you'll get stuck in traffic." Martha came back to call me. Outside the window, the sun was setting, and the light was dim. I snapped back to reality, hurriedly put on my coat, and got into the car, because I suddenly realized that this was 10 years ago, when everything was still possible. The driver merged into the traffic. The road we were taking was already congested. Should I call Mr. Parker and ask him to wait? No. I looked out the window at the constantly changing traffic lights and changed my mind. Take me to the company. Actually, I didn't have much of an impression of Alex's company. When I was young, I hated him and never visited once. Later, I loved him. But then he was targeted by his enemies, and danger surrounded him, so I dared not go find him. Now, standing beneath the towering office buildings, I felt a bit lost. Which one was his office building? Passers-by glanced at me curiously, holding a huge bouquet. Dressed elegantly, and wearing makeup, I looked like a girl preparing to confess her feelings. I awkwardly pulled out my phone and dialed Alex's number. Just his full name. Not even an emergency contact. I pressed the call button, expecting to wait a long time. But after just 2 rings, it was picked up. A cold, distant voice came through the receiver. "What's up?" Hearing his voice again, my eyes suddenly stung, and my voice choked up uncontrollably. "Alex, where's your office? I can't find it." The passers-by looked at me even more strangely. A woman who couldn't find Alexander's office was standing on the curb, sobbing uncontrollably. Alex seemed to be in a meeting. He paused briefly and said, "Let's meet here today." Then he told me, "Go stand on the sidewalk. I'll come down." A few minutes later, Alex emerged from the office building. His tall figure split the neon lights. Dressed in a suit and tie, exuding elegance and self-assurance. Looking at myself in the mirror, my eyeliner had smudged down my cheeks, making me look like the female lead in a tragic love story. "Damn it. Everything's ruined. Why did you come?" His tone was flat, almost cold. I turned around. The tall, handsome man was staring at me indifferently, his pupils reflecting my disheveled face, his expression stiffening slightly. No matter when, Alex was always flawless, like a flower blooming on a cliff, untouched by dust. "I'm sorry." I lowered my head, unable to look at him. "I disturbed you today." He only said 2 words and didn't continue. I knew what he wanted to say. Today I should have been celebrating Ryan Parker's birthday with him. Not here. That reminded me. I shoved the flowers into his arms and mumbled, "Happy birthday." A long silence followed. I glanced at him and noticed he was staring at the flowers, not looking very happy. After a while, he forced a bitter smile. "Madison, it's not what you want, is it?" "What?" I realized something was wrong with his mood. My gaze suddenly fell on the bouquet, and my heart sank. "Oh no!" Shattered ice blue roses. The flowers meaning, "I give you the stars and the sea." Ryan Parker's favorite. Also stars and the sea. When I woke up, my memories were too chaotic. I was fixated on finding Alex and overlooked these details. "I'm sorry." Thank you for the birthday gift." Alex's tone was almost stiff. "It's getting late, let the driver take you home." He turned and walked away. I quickly grabbed the hem of his shirt. "Wait!" Alex didn't expect my move, and he stumbled, pulling me hard. causing me to collide with his back. The back of his custom-made suit was left with a colorful bruise. Alex turned around, staring at my fingers, silent for a long time. I felt guilty but insisted. Alex, I'm not going back. His expression was somber. Madison, how are you going to torment me this time? This question was really hard to answer. In my memory, at this time, Alex and I had just gotten married, and we were in the middle of an argument. I was 23, and he was 28. The arguments were almost entirely one-sided. I said whatever hurtful things came to mind, and even when I gave him gifts on holidays, they were deliberately meant to stab him in the heart. I was like a shepherd boy who had cried wolf too many times. He no longer believed me. Thinking back to my past life, after the misunderstanding was resolved, my methods were more direct and brutal. Just tackling him to the ground was enough. This man, though he seems aloof, is surprisingly easy to please. But this method might not work now. Plus, Alex has suffered so much torment and injustice, and I want to make it up to him somehow. After much deliberation, I said, "Let me treat you to dinner." Alex lowered his eyes and coldly replied, "No need. I have work to do tonight." "Then let's order takeout." I thick-skinnedly followed him and said, "I'll order you some longevity noodles." Alex didn't say a word and didn't even acknowledge me. The bouquet was still tightly clutched in his hand. As we passed the trash bin, I thought he'd throw it away without hesitation. But he didn't. I followed him all the way into his office. It was empty. A cold takeout box was lying on the desk. He hadn't touched it. Was he planning to get by like this tonight? A pang of sadness welled up in my heart. I opened my phone and ordered him some longevity noodles. Clear soup. Less salt. No scallions. 4 sides. I chose tomato beef brisket and a few vegetarian dishes. All non-spicy. Back then, Alex would always order something spicy to accommodate me. It wasn't until later that I found out he had a sensitive stomach and couldn't eat anything too spicy, oily, or salty. After placing the order, I sat on the sofa, unsure of what to say. It seemed like anything I said would be inappropriate. Alex was unwrapping the flowers, intending to put them in a vase. The shards of ice blue rose petals stung my eyes. Without thinking, I walked over, snatched them, and threw them into the trash can. He froze, looking at the blood droplets on his thumb, and sighed wearily. "Madison, have you had enough?" "No." I suppressed the frustration in my heart, angry that he was so passive and had no temper. "I don't want them. If you don't like them, I'll buy you something else." Alex pulled out a tissue, pressed it against the wound, and lowered his eyes, saying resignedly, "Never mind." I ignored him, picked up the trash, and said, "Wait here," before rushing out the door. Then I hurried out. On a summer evening, the streets were lined with flower vendors. Compared to the bouquets in flower shops, which cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars, these were of lower quality. I ran to several stalls and bought all the red roses, wrapping them roughly in simple packaging paper. Just then, the takeout arrived, and I carried the bags upstairs. The 19th floor was even colder than when I had come earlier. The few employees who had stayed late had already left. Only Alex's office had a small light on. I tiptoed over and pushed the door open. He was standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, facing away from me, his silhouette looking lonely. It felt like I was a stray dog that had been abandoned. The heavy bouquet and takeout collided with the door, making a loud thud. Alex's back stiffened, and he turned around suddenly, seeing me almost crushed under the weight. "Hey, what are you doing? Help me!" I panted. He seemed surprised that I had come back. After a moment of confusion, He quickly walked over, took the bouquet and takeout with one hand, and with the other, slipped his arm under my armpits and guided me to the sofa. I took a deep breath, my forehead sweaty, but still smiled sweetly and said, "These are for you. I bought all the roses on the street." A brief blank expression flashed across Alex's handsome face. Oh no. He seems to be struggling with how I'm treating him. Do I have to scold him? Seeing him about to go back to eating his cold takeout, I let out a soft groan. Alex looked over immediately, and I caught the fleeting tension in his eyes. I leaned back on the sofa, raised my chin, and said impatiently, "Can't you eat something hot? It annoys me to watch you eat boxed meals." Alex. For the next half hour, my complaints echoed through the office. "Can't you eat properly? Can't you see the big piece of beef? Aren't you going to eat your vegetables? You're so old and still picky? Are you just sucking on the noodles? I bought them for you to eat, not to look at." After my relentless nagging, the bowl of steaming noodles was finally empty. Worried that Alex wouldn't have enough, I added 2 small steamed buns and even gave him the osmanthus cake I had brought for myself. Do I have to keep nagging like this every day? I talked myself hoarse. Suddenly, a glass of water was placed in front of me. I looked up to see Alex staring at me, moistening his throat before scolding me. His expression softened considerably, though his eyes remained lifeless and cold. At least he wasn't guarded anymore. I resisted the urge to hug him and said, "Alex, from now on, let's live a good life together." He heard this, shifted his gaze, and silently cleared the dishes without answering my question. "Get dressed. I'll have the driver take you home." "But I just got here." He quickly pushed open the door and left, as if fleeing from something. After all, such menial tasks as taking out the trash weren't something a CEO like him should be doing. Saying I wasn't disappointed would be a lie. Having been reborn, why did this man feel even harder to handle? I sat on the sofa, devising my next strategy. Should I just go for it? Or should we pour out our hearts first before going for it? A sudden ringtone interrupted my thoughts. I answered the phone absent-mindedly. On the other end was a voice that was both distant and familiar. "Maddie, where are you?" My previously joyful mood plummeted, as I remembered there was someone else. "It's you." My tone wasn't particularly enthusiastic. Ryan Parker's voice was gentle. "I've been waiting for you for a long time. Didn't we agree to celebrate our birthday together?" Thinking of everything that had happened in my past life, my fingers tightened little by little until my knuckles turned white. "Ryan Parker. We are childhood friends, right?" Ryan Parker noticed something was wrong and corrected me. "Maddie. We are family." Family. I repeated the 2 words, then suddenly asked, "You don't have anything to tell me?" He paused, sighed, and said, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have hidden the cake from you. See? Why can the people who care about you lie to you, make demands, and joke around without any consequences, while Alex has to stand behind you forever, bearing everything?" I felt icy cold, unable to even smile. I had things to do today, so I wouldn't come over. "Happy birthday." After hanging up, I took a deep breath, feeling heavy-hearted. I recalled the call Ryan Parker had made before I was kidnapped, asking where I was. I fell into deep thought. He was the person I trusted most. But what if, from the very beginning, the explosion had been orchestrated by someone I knew? I looked up and saw Alex standing at the door, his profile hidden in the shadows, his expression unclear. I hesitated for a moment and asked, "You heard everything?" "Yes." Let's go." His tone was calm, but I could hear the effort he was putting into it. The car was downstairs, I opened my mouth, not knowing how to explain what was going to happen. I was afraid he would think I was crazy. I followed him out the door, overwhelmed with guilt. Alex. He only slowed his pace slightly but didn't turn back. It was Ryan Parker who called me earlier. I spoke quickly because I did agree to help him celebrate his birthday yesterday. But today I'm different, I'm from the future. Alex suddenly stopped, turned around, and his eyes were filled with ice. Enough. He closed his eyes, suppressed his emotions, and said, "Today's dinner was delicious. And I'm glad you could spend my birthday with me." I stared at him intently, seeing the pain buried deep in his eyes. Alex's lips were pale, and every word he spoke trembled as if he were in extreme pain. "So in the end, you're going to find Ryan Parker. And I accept that. Because that's the price. In a past life." Alex had once told me that back then. Every time I gave him a little kindness, I had to pay for it with even more pain. So he never dared to ask for anything and was always prepared for me to leave at any moment. These words now felt like a knife stabbing into my heart. They caused me intense pain. On that day in a past life, when I wasn't there, his dinner was a cold takeout box. No one said a single happy birthday to him. That's why he went to wait for me at the door. Isn't it? Alex just wanted to hear me say happy birthday. But I told him to mind his own business and stay away from me. The belated truth is suffocating me. He looked away. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. It's getting dark. It's not safe. If you're going to, not replaced. Then hurry up." I suddenly grabbed Alex's hand. Firmly. Insistently. Intertwining our fingers. His body stiffened, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he asked in a hoarse voice, "Madison, what are you doing? Do you think I'm not embarrassed enough?" I looked up and suddenly grabbed his tie, pulling it down. "Alexander, don't move." Those 4 words were like a seal, completely binding him. I tiptoed up and kissed Alex's cold lips. The elegant scent of pine wood was disrupted by my chaotic kisses. I wrapped my arms around his neck and pushed him against the wall, carefully soothing him. He went from stiffness to shock, and finally surrendered, closing his eyes in defeat, letting me humiliate him. His spotless shirt was now wrinkled and crumpled. He unconsciously gripped my waist, tightening his hold until he greedily pressed against my back, pulling us tightly together. The light above us flickered on and off, and eventually, we parted in the darkness, panting against each other's foreheads. "Maddie," Alex said in a low, hoarse voice, "don't do this. You don't like it?" "No." He remained silent for a long time before saying, "Don't tempt me. Go find him while I still have my wits about me. Can you bear it?" I gently blew a breath into his ear, sounding pouty. "Don't you feel jealous? Angry? Can you bear me kissing someone else?" Alex seemed to be provoked, suddenly lowering his head to cover my mouth, taking control, picking me up, and throwing me back onto the sofa. Before I could react, his large hand gripped the back of my head, and he kissed me again with a vengeance. I curved my lips slightly. Without some strong medicine, he could really hold back. But the subsequent developments were a bit beyond my control. "Alex!" I suddenly grew alert. "You. Hey. What are you doing?" I meant we should go home first. All I heard was his voice. Soft and gentle, "I gave you a chance. But you didn't leave. Now. The chance is gone." As he finished speaking, I found myself flipped over, lying face down on the sofa back. The man's voice drifted softly into my ears. Seductive and alluring. "Madison, you're asking for it." I thought. Given Alex's personality, he wouldn't do anything too extreme. But I forgot that in a past life, He was a madman willing to die for love. Deep down, there was a wild side to him. You. My weak pleas were drowned out by my teeth. And in the end, I could only weakly wrap my arms around his neck and cry, "Alex, please have mercy on me." He seemed to be angry and didn't hear my words. I bit my teeth, clinging tightly to him, my nose stinging as tears fell onto his shoulder. Alex stiffened, stopped carefully, and said, "I'm sorry." I rested my chin on his shoulder and looked up, seeing the bright moonlight outside the window. "Alex, I've already thought of a name for our child. I thought about it for a long time in my previous life but never told him." "Maddie, don't say it." His voice was hoarse as he murmured softly, "Don't you believe me?" The only response was endless silence. He probably dared not hope that we could have a child. I said, "A boy and a girl. And I'll give you their nicknames." Little did I know that the person who had just regained his composure had fallen back into the web of chaos. Alex didn't give me a chance to speak, hugging me as if I were half dead and leading me into a small door on the side of the office. The door closed gently. The wind lingered outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. The moonlight was clear and bright. Just a door separated us. Yet whispers filled the air. By the early hours of the morning, my temper flared, and I kicked him, saying I didn't want him anymore. Alex dragged me back without a word and asked, "If you don't want me, who do you want?" He asked seriously. I blushed fiercely. "I don't want you." He muttered, "You don't get to decide." In that night's dream, there was Alex's entanglement and a raging fire filling the sky. I lay in a pool of blood, my body bound with explosives. Alex rushed into the fire, picked me up, and trembled all over. I saw him crying and could only weakly raise my hand to push him away. "Get out, Alex. I told you to get out. Don't touch me, please." The dream was shattered by my screams. The warm sensation vanished in an instant. I fell back into darkness and suddenly opened my eyes, my cheeks damp with sweat. I had been dreaming, coming to my senses. I realized Alex had been pushed to the edge of the bed by me. From his expression, he must have thought I was talking in my sleep. He handed me a tissue but remained seated at a distance. His fingertips avoided touching me. My heart sank. He still misunderstood. "Alex." I tried to speak. I was just dreaming. He listened to me very seriously. I spoke with a trembling voice. "I was in a fire, with explosives tied to my body, and you had to die with me. So, don't misunderstand what I said." Alex's eyes flickered briefly, as if he had understood something, then fell into silence. "All right. I believe you." After saying that, he tucked the blanket around me, picked up the pillow, and walked out. "Alex!" I called out to him, shouting at his back, "You're lying." He didn't respond. I grabbed the pillow and smashed it hard against his back. "Fine. Go ahead. I'm so sore all over. You ungrateful bastard. Just leave me here to die." After saying that, I didn't look at him, turned my back to him, curled up like a shrimp, and crawled into the blanket. No wonder they say young people have such stubborn tempers. Alex, who seemed 10 years younger, was so stubborn, not at all cute. After a long silence, the bed sank slightly behind me. Alex sighed. "Go to sleep. Hold me while I sleep." He obediently pulled me into his arms. The night was still long, but I stared at the endless darkness, unable to sleep. Since my rebirth, too much information had been jumbled together in my mind. The people who kidnapped me had once been connected to Alex. They were the owners of a bankrupt company. The accident that happened to Ryan Parker back then was actually my uncle's scheme to drive a wedge between Alex and me. These were the things I learned in the last year of my previous life. My whereabouts had always been well protected by Alex. But I was kidnapped on my way to, not replacing, a prenatal checkup. How did they find out? The only possibility was the phone call Ryan Parker made to me. Even in his final moments, Alex said, "Thank you, Ryan Parker. Without him, I wouldn't have found you." Those involved are often blind. Looking back now, the person I trusted most, my childhood friend of over a decade, Ryan Parker, what role did he play in all of this? Due to insomnia the previous night, my head felt like it was about to explode the next morning. "Alex, I can't get up. How could you do this to me?" He kicked me a few times and said helplessly, "Get up and eat breakfast." "I'm not eating. You're being too principled." I snapped. "You don't like the younger version of yourself at all." He paused for a moment and asked with a good-natured tone, "The younger me?" "Yes." I snatched the blanket from his hands and wrapped it around myself. "I like you 10 years older. Go be old and don't disturb my sleep." I wriggled into the warmest spot, stretched out comfortably, and felt Alex's scent all over my body. I slept until the afternoon. Clearly, he had thought of the possibility that I might wake up hungry. So lunch was neatly arranged on the table. The room was extremely tidy, everything in order. And my big bed, within the order, was a separate little world. It was a complete mess. Because I had been fooling around last night, the bed sheets were torn into strips and all over Alex. To be honest, the 28-year-old Alex was so innocent compared to the 38-year-old Alex. I shook my head to clear the blushing, heart-pounding images from my mind. After a quick wash, I ate breakfast, grabbed Alex's shirt, wrapped it around myself, and opened the door to peek out. The office was quiet. The computer was on a video conference. The setting sun cast a soft glow through the floor-to-ceiling windows, falling on Alex's suit. It nicely balanced the natural coldness and aloofness of his appearance. My heart skipped a beat. My ears turned red unconsciously. Alex's insight was always sharp, and he looked up the moment I opened the door. When he saw what I was wearing, he suddenly froze. I cleared my throat uncomfortably a few times, made sure no one was around, and walked out with a red face, sitting down opposite Alex. I opened my phone and saw that Ryan Parker had called me 5 times and sent me a dozen text messages. They were all late at night. At that moment, I must have been half asleep and didn't wake up to the ringing. Could it be? I stared at Alex thoughtfully. His gaze was focused, as if he hadn't noticed my presence. "Just pretend." I crossed my legs and swayed back and forth in the corner of his vision, not caring if I was showing too much skin. Alex's voice suddenly stumbled, and after a brief pause, he said, "That's all for today." With that, the meeting ended. He leaned back in his chair, furrowing his brows. "Madison. Oh. Last night he called me Maddie. And now it's Madison? Look at him. Acting so proper and innocent. Like he didn't do anything wrong. Anyone who didn't know better would think he's such a decent person." I brushed against his calf hidden under the desk. "Mr. Reynolds. Did my phone ring last night?" Alex calmly lowered his eyes. "Unsure." "Really?" I leaned over the desk, grabbed his tie, and pulled him closer, even though he tried to hide it. To me, he was just a young man. "Madison, this is work time," he reminded me sternly, and if it weren't for his slightly irregular breathing, I might have actually believed he was indifferent. "Oh." I kissed him gently. "Want more?" He remained silent for a moment before saying bluntly, "Yes." I kissed him again. "I'm in the next room. Wait for me to finish work, and we'll go home together." After returning to my room, I received another call from Ryan Parker. "Maddie, I've been discharged from the hospital. His voice was hoarse and nasal, as if he hadn't slept well all night. I was taken aback. How did you get out of the hospital? It's incurable. He spoke in a low voice. If it can't be fixed, I've chosen to give up. I want to live a peaceful life with you. I furrowed my brows. We've never had a chance. And besides, I'm married. What about me? Ryan Parker said. What do you think our promise meant? Is it because my face is ruined that you don't love me anymore? I hesitated. You said that only by breaking up could the company promote you and you could go further. But you promised to wait for me. How long do I have to wait? I sighed. You had countless opportunities. Yet you made me wait all this time. My uncle is a man who will stop at nothing to achieve his goals. My parents abandoned me at birth, moving overseas to start new families. I was just a pawn in the Sang family. While Ryan Parker was shining on the big screen, I was being pushed to the brink by my uncle. That night, I called him all night long, but he ignored my calls. The next day, watching his on-screen first kiss, I accepted my uncle's proposal with a broken heart. At that moment, Ryan Parker asked me over the phone, "Do you like him?" I had no hesitation, I loved him. In the days that followed, Ryan Parker never contacted me again. I thought long and hard to track down the murderer who ruined my past life. I needed Alex's help. The first step was to make him accept the fact that I had been reborn. Otherwise, he might have me committed to a mental hospital. This reincarnated heiress started investigating the murderer who destroyed her family in her previous life. Having information advantages is a great thing. Aren't you curious about how she eventually turned the tables? I propped myself up on my elbows, leaning over Alex, telling him enthusiastically. This was the third reincarnation novel I had read to him this month. Alex listened intently. If you like it, I can invest and turn it into a TV series. It's not about what I like. The point is whether you like it or not. He looked at the wrinkled shirt I was wearing inside. If you like it, I like it. I wouldn't let it go, clenching my fist as a microphone. Then tell me your thoughts. Alex. Lately, our relationship has improved significantly. He's been very accommodating, almost to the point of being completely obedient. But there's still something missing. Alex. I pulled a chair closer and sat in front of him, looking serious. I think it's time I told you. He put down his chopsticks and adopted a posture of attentive listening. Go ahead. I spoke with a heavy heart. Actually, I'm also a reincarnated person. Silence. A long, prolonged silence. Alex raised his eyebrows slightly, his lips tightly pursed. He wanted to laugh. I pointed at him. Oh, you don't believe me. Continue, Maddie. He curved his lips slightly, but forced himself to suppress it. I believe you. I decided to just go for it and told him everything that happened in my previous life. At first, he listened as if I were a child telling a story. He thought it was a new trick I had learned. Gradually, his brows furrowed. I knew I had hit the nail on the head. The person who stabbed me was surnamed Fong, probably an employee of your company who later went out on his own. Of course, this was 10 years ago, so I don't know where he is now. Also, my uncle was involved, and you need to be careful of Song. Before I could finish, a piercing ringtone interrupted us. Alex and I both saw the name displayed on the phone screen. Ryan. Due to my negligence, Ryan Parker's contact name hadn't been changed to his full name. Alex's expression hardened, and he resumed his cold demeanor, standing up and picking up the plate. I'll wash the dishes. That feeling came back again. It was deliberate avoidance. He was still afraid. I clenched my teeth, grabbed my phone, and followed him into the kitchen. He turned his back to the door and turned on the faucet. I pressed the speakerphone button. Ryan Parker's familiar voice came through the speaker. Maddie, this might be the last time I call you. Besides his voice, there was the sound of howling wind. I immediately grew tense. Where are you? The rooftop of the high school building. His voice was soft. Maddie, do you remember? The day my parents left me. You said the Sang family never truly cared for you, and that we could be family. When I was 18, I wanted to jump off the rooftop. But you stopped me. His voice was soft, tinged with regret. Now you don't want me anymore. I feel like there's no point in living. Ryan Parker. Don't do anything rash. My head spun, and I turned around, grabbing my clothes and pulling them on. Wait for me. I'm coming. After hanging up, I turned around and saw Alex still standing by the sink, facing away from me. It seemed like he hadn't heard a thing, only the sound of water flowing. I panicked, rushed in, and shouted, "What are you doing? Why aren't you changing your clothes?" He stumbled as I pulled him, his dark eyes staring at me. Change clothes? It's not appropriate for me to do it myself. I'm married. I pulled out my phone in frustration and spoke quickly. Alex, I'll give you 10 seconds to take off the apron. I'm calling the police. He's crazy. The kids haven't finished their evening study yet. What does he think he's doing? Jumping in front of everyone? I'm done. Alex was already standing at the door, clean and dry. I was taken aback. You moved pretty fast. Luckily, Alex knew how to drive, so we didn't have to wait for a taxi. The police had already arrived at the scene. They told me not to contact Ryan Parker anymore. With this sliver of hope, he wouldn't do anything dangerous for the time being. This gave us enough time to evacuate the students from the school. Alex drove as fast as he could within a safe distance. We arrived at the scene quickly. On the rooftop, the wind was strong. It couldn't dispel the summer heat. The campus was deathly quiet. The police were standing 5 meters away from Ryan Parker. The police dragged me onto the rooftop. Miss, he insists on seeing you. Can you stall him for a while? The rescue team is on its way. I glanced at Alex, who was blocked by the police line. He nodded at me. I took a deep breath, climbed the steps, and called out, Ryan Parker. The figure sitting on the edge of the rooftop moved slightly and turned his head. A burned side of his face was exposed. Maddie, you're here. Looking at him, I felt a moment of disorientation. It seemed like ages since I last saw him. After Alex and I resolved our misunderstanding in our previous life, we visited him a few times. But Ryan Parker was very resistant. Perhaps after hating someone for so many years. Even if you suddenly discover they weren't the one responsible, it's hard to let go of that hatred. Plus, later on, Alex was caught between two enemies, and the situation was tense, so I stayed home and dared not go out, combining my past and present lives. It had been over a year since we last saw each other. Ryan Parker. Please come down first. Ryan Parker ignored me and just kept staring at me. I'm sorry. His gaze shifted to Alex, who was standing outside the crowd waiting for me. And he said, You're right. I was too extreme. You clearly told me before we got married that we'd only be family from then on. I was too greedy. I recalled the years we spent supporting each other and getting through tough times. When we were bullied by thugs, he protected me and took the blows for me. When I was kicked out by my uncle, he braved the rain in the middle of the night to bring me an umbrella and take me home. For a moment, I felt a bit shaken. Is he really the one who killed me? Ryan Parker smiled. You promised to spend your birthday with me every year. Sing me a birthday song, and I'll come down. All right. I'll sing. The wind gradually died down. and the birthday song drifted softly through the night sky on the rooftop. But as I sang, I realized I hadn't sung it for Alex that day. I should go back and sing it for him. When the song ended, Ryan Parker stood up from the rooftop and faced me. "Thank you. It's been years since I heard you sing. It was beautiful. I want to ask you one more question," he said softly. "Ask. Do you still love me?" I remained silent for a long time before finally saying, "You're my family." From the moment he stood on the stage, it was clear. Ryan Parker's deep eyes looked out at the crowd, as if he were making eye contact with Alex. The wind on the rooftop made me feel a little cold, and I said, "Let's go back. Okay?" Ryan Parker withdrew his gaze, gave me a faint smile, and said, "Maddie, I love you." After saying that, he spread his arms and fell backward into the endless night. In that moment, time seemed to freeze. My blood froze in my veins. And the next moment, I lunged toward the rooftop. Ryan Parker. But I grabbed nothing. The pitch-black ground looked like the gaping maw of a giant beast. Ryan Parker had vanished into the abyss. I stared blankly at the dark ground, my mind a blank. I seemed to hear a dull thud. My legs gave way, and I collapsed to my knees. Ryan Parker is dead? Did I misunderstand him? They say people are perceptive. We've known each other for so many years. Ryan Parker must have sensed my growing distance from him. So he chose to end his own life. Does that mean I'm the one who killed him? My body was ice cold, and I sat there motionless, trembling uncontrollably. Suddenly, I fell into a warm embrace. The familiar scent felt like a lifeline in that moment. I clung tightly to Alex's sleeve and said, "I killed him." He held me, and I felt safe. I didn't know what to do. I cried out, hugging Alex tightly, stuttering, "I'm sorry." He stroked my hair. He wasn't dead. "Don't cry," he whispered in my ear. "The police have set up an inflatable mattress below and caught him." I closed my eyes, tears soaking his shirt, and burst into tears. When someone truly dies because of your actions, self-blame feels like a mountain crushing you. Alex spoke with difficulty. "Just some scrapes." He was taken to the hospital, not replaced. "If you want to go, I can take you." "No." My voice was hoarse. I wanted to stay with him. "All right." We got back into the car. Outside, the police were leaving in waves. Soon, someone would come to take us away, not replaced. Because Ryan Parker had no family. I leaned against his shoulder, exhausted. Before we left, there was one last thing I didn't tell you. I suspect Ryan Parker was involved too. Alex took a deep breath. "Maddie, what if he's innocent? If he's innocent, would you choose him or me?" It wasn't until he asked that question that I truly exhaled. All along, Alex had always assumed he was the one who wouldn't be chosen. But 10 years later, Madison always chose Alex without hesitation. I looked up at Alex and said, "Do you remember when Ryan Parker first debuted?" "Yeah. We didn't know each other yet. At that time, I had already broken up with Ryan Parker. If I had to describe my feelings for Ryan Parker, they were complicated. We went through the turbulent years of our youth together, entered the harsh world, and compared to that, the love between us was minimal. I counted on my fingers for Alex. He debuted, acted, gained fame, and by the time we got married, we had already broken up. For over a year. I admit, I hated you at first. Just like I hated my uncle. I hated people who barged into my life without permission. Coincidentally, Ryan Parker was involved in a car accident on his way to meet investors. And the driver was one of your people. I saw you as someone as ruthless as my uncle. I didn't hate you because I liked Ryan Parker. I didn't like Ryan Parker, I just couldn't stand someone who would ruin someone else's future over a disagreement. Alex gently clasped my hand. I'm sorry. It was indeed my fault. I didn't think things through. No. I'm holding on to your arm. I already said it was my uncle's fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Who dares to insult you? I'll go argue with them. He remained silent for a moment before saying, Thank you. For what? For the first time, someone stood up for me. Hearing this, I felt a pang of guilt. Alex's family is rarely mentioned in the industry. He truly has no one to protect him. Alex looked at me seriously. Can you tell me? How did you start liking me? The night was dark, but I could see the hope in his eyes. Once, you came home drunk and kicked the scarf I was knitting for the puppy. In the middle of the night, you sat cross-legged on the ground, figuring out how to knit a scarf for it. I told you to go to sleep, but you said the puppy would be cold without its scarf. So I thought, someone who cares about whether a puppy is cold might not be so heartless as to harm others. Actually, there's something else I didn't tell him. That night, Alex mumbled in his sleep, Maddie, I'm cold too. I happened to hear it when I got up in the middle of the night to drink water. My heart softened a little. I felt sorry for him too. Alone and unloved. Alex listened intently. Would our family get a puppy? Yeah. 7 years later. On my birthday. You gave me one. You said you were too busy. Never coming home. So it could keep me company. I happily counted on my fingers, figuring out how old it must be now. Probably an old dog somewhere. Not even reincarnated yet. Our little dog was so smart. It could learn anything in no time. I even wondered if it hadn't drunk the forgetfulness soup. I stopped mid-sentence. Alex froze. What's wrong? I stared blankly at his hand and said, Ryan Parker, he's just like me. What do you mean? Just like you? On the rooftop. I turned my head, my brows furrowing deeper. When Ryan Parker jumped off, he said to me, It's been years since you sang happy birthday to me. But I did sing it to him last year. Alex narrowed his eyes and instantly understood. You mean, in a past life, you didn't sing to him for years? Yes. Blood rushed to my head, and I felt a chill run down my spine. According to what he said, he had been waiting for me to sing him a birthday song for many years. There was only one explanation. Alex and I exchanged glances, seeing the same confusion in each other's eyes. Go, do not replace. Half an hour later, the doctor told us that someone had taken Ryan Parker away. When we asked again, they refused to disclose any information about the patient. Under these circumstances, it was hard to believe that Ryan Parker had nothing to do with that incident. On the way back, I kept thinking about one question. Do you think he jumped on purpose just now? Alex gripped the steering wheel, his fingertips tapping lightly on the leather cover, and said, Generally, in buildings with lower floors, the police would set up an inflatable mattress. If it were me, I'd be 100% certain I could jump without dying. I stared at his profile thoughtfully. Oh, so what do you think his motive was? He hummed lightly. He was trying to manipulate your sympathy to get you on his side. This was the first time in his life that Alex had spoken to me in such a bitter tone. I pursed my lips and nodded solemnly. You're pretty insightful. He replied dryly. Men understand men best. I didn't press the issue but instead gazed out the window at the passing scenery, lost in thought. If I had warned Alex 10 years ago to be wary of certain people, things might not have turned out this badly. Recalling the scene from his previous life where he had rushed into the burning building without hesitation to embrace me, my heart ached once more. How could I not be moved? When people are kind to each other, it is noticed. After driving back and forth for several hours, I arrived home late at night. Martha had already left. The living room was dark, and as Alex reached out to turn on the light, I suddenly pounced on him, pushing him onto the sofa. His long legs were forced to straddle either side, supporting my weight. Alex's clothes were disheveled, and he whispered hoarsely, "What are you doing, Alex?" I leaned close to his ear and whispered, "I love you." His breathing became chaotic. His Adam's apple bobbed, and he gripped my waist to prevent me from rolling off him. "Get off." The command was almost desperate. I blinked in surprise. "No way. You. Don't say it." He covered my eyes and spoke coldly. "Don't look." The world went black, and as my eyelids fluttered, my lashes brushed against his warm palm. Who knew saying "I love you" could be so devastating? To make him lose his composure like this. I smiled widely. "I love you. I love you." Playful words, like feathers, tickling his heart, tickling until the flames spread like wildfire. I leaned against his chest, feeling his heartbeat accelerating beneath my palms. So I softened my tone. "A Sue. I love you." The next moment, his lips sealed mine. He was more dominant than ever, trapping me in the corner, forcing me to accept his affection. His hands, like they were caressing a precious treasure, glided over my cheek, my neck, and gently cradled my face, lost in passion. "You're so disobedient," he sighed. "Aren't you hungry?" "I'm hungry." I clung to him like a koala, my hands slipping into his shirt. "I'm hungry. Let's eat." Seeing he didn't budge, I took a chance. "Hey, have you thought of a nickname for the baby?" Alex's eyes darkened slightly as he carried me past the dining table and headed straight for the bedroom. The scent of roasted chicken legs caught my attention. I peeked out and saw the table, my eyes lighting up. "Wait. Martha left me a chicken leg. Don't even think about it." Alex rejected me ruthlessly for the first time. This was my only chance. And now I was in control. I felt like Alex had some negotiation skills. He wasn't just a little bit, he was a master manipulator. His voice murmured in the dark night, carrying me like a small boat in a wave. Fragmentary kisses covered my fingertips, finally being rubbed into my heart. "I'm yours." I was intoxicated by his beauty, humming softly as I rolled over and pinned this man down firmly. "Mine. All mine." Later, after taking a shower, my eyelids felt heavy. A pair of hands took advantage of the moment while hugging him, roaming freely and taking every advantage. He was like a docile big dog, seemingly incapable of ever getting angry. "Maddie. HM?" I was so tired. My voice was slurred. "When we first got married, you promised to take me to the movies. But the next day you had a stomachache and cancelled. Going instead, not replaced. Did you go to see him?" For me, it was really a long time ago. I tried to recall, but it didn't seem to have anything to do with Ryan Parker. The day before, Alex had someone send back a small cake, and I also ate a pack of spicy chicken wings, which gave me gastroenteritis. I went to the hospital for an 4 drip, picked up the medicine, and went home to rest. But from the way Alex was talking, something didn't seem right. My sleepiness vanished instantly, and I sat up. After a moment of surprise, Alex said, "I'm sorry. Don't apologize. I'm not angry." I sat up cross-legged. "I'm just curious. How did you think I went to see Ryan Parker?" Logically speaking, with his abilities, he could easily find out my schedule and would naturally know that I was lying there half dead getting in 4 drip. But he didn't check. After a brief silence, Alex admitted honestly, "I can see Ryan Parker's WeChat moments. But he doesn't usually post on WeChat moments. Does he?" We locked eyes. Both saw confusion in the other's eyes. Alex pulled out his phone and handed it to me. I eagerly tapped on Ryan Parker's profile picture. The moment I saw the content of his WeChat moments, my head buzzed. August 9th. Maddie said she wanted to celebrate my birthday today. Thank you, my love. August 1st. I tasted Maddie's homemade meal. It still tasted the same as before. I frantically scrolled back until I reached the post from 6 months ago. The movie is out. Waiting for Maddie to come. That was the day I had gastroenteritis. But when I opened my phone, Ryan Parker's WeChat moments was empty. This content was only visible to Alex. However, in reality, since we got married, we've had little interaction. At most, he'd call to pay bills or show up when the doctor needed to adjust the treatment plan. I truly treated him like an old friend, but he kept hurting my loved ones behind my back. I was so angry my head hurt. And you believed him? There wasn't even a single photo of me. Alex lowered his eyes, staring at the empty moments on my phone, something slowly lighting up in his eyes. Maddie, I can't help but believe it. He kept opening and closing it, as if confirming something, or perhaps just an unconscious reaction to seeing light after darkness. I'm afraid to ask someone to check and find out that you and he are really sitting in the movie theater. If that's the case, I'd rather not know. I'm both angry and heartbroken. You didn't even ask me. I stopped mid-sentence. Yes. He dared not ask. Back then, I would lash out at him with harsh words at the slightest provocation. The response he would have received would likely not have been much better than what Alex had already guessed. I was wrong. I threw myself into Alex's arms, my eyes stinging with tears. I'm sorry. I'll never get angry with you again. He laughed softly, kissed my ear, and said, No. I like it when you get angry. It's cute. Just don't ever say you don't want me anymore. That night, the last bit of distance between us vanished. I suspect Alex has a bit of a masochistic tendency. He feels restless if he doesn't get scolded for a day. One morning after the start of autumn, I exploded again. Alex, do you want to work yourself to death at the office so I can give you a banner for dedication to your job? On the phone, Alex's sexy voice was muffled by a thick layer of sand, with a slight nasal tone. As he laughed, I can still handle it. In the middle of the night, he had a high fever and his body was burning hot. I called the family doctor and got some fever-reducing medicine. I half coaxed, half forced him to take it, then held a small basin to wipe his body. By dawn, the fever had subsided. I wrote Martha a simple diet plan for Alex to eat when he woke up, then curled up in his arms and fell into a deep sleep. When I opened my eyes, it was already 10 o'clock, and he had gone to work, perhaps haunted by past experiences. I was extra vigilant about his safety. After a quick breakfast, I took the porridge Martha had made and hurried to his company. The secretary stood up nervously when she saw me. Mr. Reynolds is in his office and cannot see visitors. It's okay. I'll wait. I sat down on the sofa by the door and played with my phone. Gradually, I heard Alex talking to someone. His tone was unusually cold and sharp. I gave you a chance, but you didn't take it. Mr. Reynolds, you're clearly trying to make me make a mistake. Alex chuckled. So what? You're being unreasonable. I'm a businessman. I only care about profit. I never argue with people. I propped my chin on my hand and listened intently, while the secretary was scared out of her wits. The door suddenly burst open, and an angry middle-aged man rushed out. As he left, he glanced at me unintentionally, and I froze. Mr. Vance. Isn't he the murderer who stabbed me in my previous life? Has Alex already started his plan? 10 years ahead of schedule, no wonder he's an action man. The secretary was sweating profusely and shouted, "Mr. Reynolds, your wife is here." I snapped back to reality, picked up the lunch box, and walked inside. I didn't see the cold-hearted man who held the power of life and death in the workplace. Alex was sitting by the window, his white shirt spotless, smiling gently at me. "I'll be back for lunch." I placed the food box on his desk with a thud and sat down across from him. "About earlier. Did I scare you?" He spoke softly, smiling. "Sorry. I'll watch my tone next time." "No." I scratched my head. "This is the person I told you about last time, the one who stabbed me." Alex's eyes hardened, and he simply said, "Just hand it over to me," before burying his head in his meal. The timing was perfect, the porridge was still warm. He truly had excellent manners, even eating was a pleasure to watch. Seeing that I was still staring at him, Alex paused and asked, "Do you want to eat with me?" "No." I hesitated and leaned forward. Alex stopped again and sighed. "Do you want to buy a bag? Or some clothes? You can use the card I gave you. Or I can take you after work." I bit my lip, my ears turning red. "Could you, please, speak to me in the same tone as before?" "What?" I covered my face, almost hiding under the table. "Please. I really fall for that." Alex's face went blank for a moment. I thought of a certain night when I blurted out, "Look at me like I'm trash." Suddenly, I felt like I was sitting on pins and needles. Some dirty talk just slips out without thinking. Alex swallowed his food and suddenly laughed. I shyly kicked him and said, "Don't laugh at me. Forget what I said." "I won't forget." He stared at me. "I can't refuse any of your requests." That day, people from his company saw my face as red as a persimmon and rushed out of the office. After being entangled for so many years, I finally felt the heat of a new romance. Alex's social media feed was taken over by me. Every few days, I posted failed kitchen creations, blurry couple photos taken on a whim, and cheesy, cliché captions. Alex said softly, "Actually, I do have some friends." The implication was that it was a bit embarrassing. But seeing how much fun I was having, he decided to go along with everyone's teasing. Under each WeChat post, there are a few fixed comments. "The old bachelor has finally fallen. Here he goes again, showing off his wife. If you've been kidnapped by your sister-in-law, just blink. Time flies. And before we know it, it's deep autumn. Ryan Parker seems to have disappeared from my life. His phone number is disconnected, and all contact has been severed." Occasionally, when I saw high school students getting off school, I would think back to the past. But my intuition told me that things wouldn't end so simply. Alex became very busy. He left early and came back late. Sometimes, when I waited for him at home, I would think back to my past life. He was the same, always busy with work, rarely having time to talk to me. "Mrs. Reynolds, it's 10 o'clock. Go to bed early." I sat cross-legged on the carpet, surrounded by newly purchased items. "I'll wait a little longer." It's been a week since I last saw him, and tonight I suddenly felt like waiting for him. The weather was getting colder, so I rushed to the mall to buy Alex some winter clothes. A camel-colored checkered scarf, a wool coat, and a pair of fluffy, slightly childish gloves that matched mine. As I was putting them away in the wardrobe, I suddenly heard my phone vibrating in my coat. I pulled it out and saw an email. I took a photo and sent it to him with a sarcastic message. "Why, Sue? Why do you have another phone I don't know about?" He was already used to my occasional playful teasing and replied, "It's for work. I forgot to bring it. Can you open it for me?" I smiled as I opened the email and muttered, "Don't tell me it's a love letter from someone else." I'll make a scene. The screen switched to a medical report. I squinted and zoomed in. Song. Cheng Hui. Skull fracture and intracranial hemorrhage. This person must have been hit by something. Oh. There's a death report below. Work-related injury. How tragic. Alex listened and said, "Be good. Put the phone back. I'll go home later and buy you a small cake. You just said I could look at it. You cheapskate." He smiled and said, "There's nothing to see." The food was still warming in the kitchen. I put the phone back and pulled out the wrapping paper, planning to wrap the new clothes as a gift to surprise him. My best friend Evelyn teased me over the phone. "You used to drive him crazy. Madison. You must have changed your mind. Our Huaishu brother is the best. Were you blind before? All right. All right. When are you going to partner with me to open a studio? Don't you know your design drafts are in high demand?" I hesitated for a moment. "Let's wait a bit longer. I can give you the drafts at home." "Oh. Just stay with your Huaishu brother." I admit it. I just want to spend more time with him. If we could start over again with no changes, we'd eventually die together. And that would be one day less to live. Alex came home just in time. Only a small lamp was left on for him in the living room. And the sand pot was still warm. I hugged my legs and curled up in the corner of the sofa, holding my breath. Alex called softly, "Maddie." I didn't respond, crouched down behind him, and suddenly threw myself onto his shoulder. Meow. Alex helplessly carried me on his back, holding me tight so I wouldn't fall. "Aren't you afraid? I saw your shadow." I nudged him playfully and said, "Let's go to the bedroom. I prepared a gift for you." He carried me in as I asked. And in the middle of the bedroom was a huge gift box wrapped haphazardly. "What's this?" "It's a belated birthday gift for you. I didn't even make the longevity noodles this year. And I'm really not satisfied. All this money was earned from the design sketches I worked so hard on." I slid down from his back and handed it to him like a treasure. "Open it and take a look." Alex lowered his eyes, looked at it for a long time, and said, "Maddie, thank you. Hurry up." His hand rested on the gift box, hesitating for a long time. "There's something I want to discuss with you." "Go ahead." He hesitated, then finally said, Maybe we need to take a break for a while." I froze for a few seconds, thinking I hadn't woken up yet. When I finally processed it, I slowly, one word at a time, confirmed, "You want to divorce me?" Alex's eyes flashed with struggle, but before he could speak, I jumped to my feet. "I understand. I'll go pack my things." "Madison." Alex grabbed my arm and said, "Please let me finish." Tears welled up in my eyes, and I turned away from him, afraid to cry in front of him. "Just say it." "I already know. It's my fault for hurting you. You only stayed with me to get back at me. I shouldn't have called you a despicable man who kidnapped a woman when we got married. I shouldn't have stood you up on purpose and made you wait outside the movie theater for 2 hours. And I shouldn't have known you liked cleanliness and still secretly smeared jam on your white shirt. I deserve this." The person behind me suddenly fell silent. "Where did you smear the jam? The shirt? And the sheets? When did this happen?" "Just shortly after we got married. I wanted to get back at you." Suddenly, the light flipped, and the next second, I found myself face down on Alex's thigh. Slap! A crisp slap landed on my lower back, sending a tingling sensation through my body. Tears rolled down my eyes as I pitifully cried out, "You didn't say I'd be abused before the divorce. Help me." "I didn't even use much force." Alex laughed in exasperation. "Madison, how childish are you?" I struggled fiercely, refusing to back down. As the success manuals say, You have to strike at your opponent's weak spot. You want cleanliness, don't you? I'll dirty your sheets. And I'll do it again after the divorce. Slap. Another slap. My face burned bright red. Alex. What are you doing? This is humiliating me. Just end it quickly. Quickly might be too much for you to handle. He picked me up, using his hands and feet to restrain my struggles. His face stern. All right. Stop crying. I'll tell you something serious. You need to act with me. What play? Song Ching-hui is Ryan Parker's father. Alex got straight to the point. The email you saw earlier said his father died in a construction accident. That project was a collaboration between your uncle and my father many years ago. I suddenly remembered the day I went to the rooftop to find Ryan Parker. He was standing there, the wind blowing his white shirt like a billowing sail. I held an ice pop and called out, "Ryan Parker, what are you doing?" He turned around, his clear face filled with despair. My family is dead. I have no family left. At that moment, I was shocked by the tragedy in his family. I cautiously moved closer and handed him an ice pop. I have no family either. Look at me. What about me? You? Yeah. Look. This is what they did to me when they locked me in the girls' bathroom. My uncle only scolds me for causing trouble for him. He doesn't care about me. Ryan Parker looked down at my bruised arm, took the ice pop, jumped down from the edge of the steps, and asked, "What's your uncle's name?" Sang Ming. Ryan Parker slowly raised his eyes. Sang Ming? The Sang Ming from the Sang group? Yeah. He looked at my face with an unprecedented seriousness and said, "Don't worry. I'll take good care of you from now on." I was lost in my memories. And it wasn't until years later that I suddenly understood the meaning behind that look. Perhaps, in the moment before he learned my uncle's name, Ryan Parker truly wanted to treat me like family. But my connection to the Sang family could help him open the door to his revenge. He spent years teaching me that family never betrays you. And if family is hurt, you must repay them 1,000-fold. But his initial promise was woven from lies. Alex said, "Maddie, I can tell that Ryan Parker likes you. You mentioned your past life, where you were killed, and Ryan Parker played a part in it. Perhaps it was because you chose me. I can't let you stay tied to me and take that risk. You have no connection to the Sang family, and Ryan Parker should know that. So, if you leave me, all the future dangers will be my responsibility alone." I shook my head slowly. Impossible. Listen to me. I won't listen. I stubbornly pulled his hand. I won't divorce you. Do you know? In our past life, we even had a child. And I didn't even get the chance to tell you. Alex froze. Really? Yes. Maybe we already have one now. His body stiffened, and he stared straight at my stomach. Alex, I can act with you. But we can't divorce. A few weeks later, the media broke the news. Prominent businessman Alex was rumored to be going through a marital crisis and divorcing his wife. On the same day, photos of me moving out of the villa were posted online by netizens. My best friend Evelyn watched me carry bags into her apartment. Overjoyed. "Rich girl, you finally came to your senses and decided to start a business with me?" "Yeah," I replied with a cold expression. "Men can't be trusted." "Hey, you were still talking about Huaishu brother a few days ago. Tell me what happened." Facing her gossipy expression, I sighed. I smeared jam on his bed sheets. "That's it? That's it. We're divorced. What are your plans now?" "I'll live on my own." 3 days later, I received a call from my uncle. "Maddie, come back tomorrow night." I held the phone while spraying water on the lilies and smiled. "Oh, second uncle. Why did you suddenly think of me? Isn't it because you got divorced?" Your family can't just let you suffer outside. Take advantage of the banquet and let us help you find someone else. You sure have good information. Just say whether you're coming or not. I'll be there on time." After hanging up, my best friend looked at me worriedly. "Aren't you estranged from your parents? What does their family have to do with you? Blood is thicker than water. If I don't go, they'll keep trying to harm me." That evening, I wore a black form-fitting fishtail dress and pushed open the gates of the Sang family mansion. The banquet hall was bustling with people. As soon as I entered, all eyes turned to me, and people began to whisper, "Is that the Sang family's daughter? She doesn't stand out at all. Hey, your parents don't care about you. Who do you expect to take care of you? Why don't you let your son try to climb the Sang family's social ladder? He could skip a decade of hard work. Get lost." I made my way through the crowd and turned a corner, hearing a familiar voice. "It's been a long time." Following the sound, I saw Alex holding a glass of wine, standing in the crowd, smiling and chatting. He had always been the center of attention. Upon hearing of his divorce, many businessmen flocked to him, and the women around him surrounded him in layers. Must be thrilled. Huh? People noticed me, and the conversation fell silent. "Mr. Reynolds, why don't you catch up first?" Alex gave me a cold glance, then looked away. "No need. We're not really in touch anymore." I casually took a glass of champagne from a server and walked over. Passers-by automatically made way, afraid we'd get into a fight and they'd get caught in the crossfire. Alex's deep gaze lingered on my moist lips for a moment before trailing down my neck, taking in the curve of my waist. For a moment, I forgot my lines. I couldn't wait any longer. I splashed the champagne onto his clothes and laughed. "Say hello. Mr. Reynolds doesn't mind, does he?" He took the empty glass from me, his fingertips lingering on the back of my hand, and smiled faintly. "I don't mind." I hummed, tossed the glass aside, and turned to leave, pushing open the terrace door to breathe some fresh air. But there was already someone on the terrace. And it was someone I knew. Ryan Parker. He was leaning against the railing, his burned face hidden in the shadows, only half of his handsome face visible. "Maddie, long time no see." My eyelashes fluttered slightly, and I clenched my hands behind my back. "Long time no see." He chuckled softly. "Why are you being so distant with me?" I tried to ease the tension, took a deep breath, and said, "Why would you think that? I haven't even asked you yet. Where did you go? Did you block my phone? You think you're so tough now?" I pushed him playfully, just like I used to. Suddenly, the light outside was blocked. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Alex leaning casually against the window, looking over here indifferently. Ryan Parker was completely pushed into the darkness. "I went in for surgery." "Surgery?" He leaned forward slightly, and the dim light illuminated his face. The skin that had been burned was mostly healed. "Look closely. Do I look the same as before?" I stared at him blankly for a moment before saying, "Yes." I took a step back, creating some distance between us. "I'm happy for you. Really." The door suddenly opened, and Uncle Air led a group of guests over. "Come. Let me introduce everyone. This is my niece, Madison, and the gentleman beside her is our company's newly signed actor, Ryan Parker. They've known each other since they were children. This banquet was actually arranged by me to help the two of them settle down." The crowd gathered around, and the guests exchanged flattering remarks. They surrounded me and Ryan Parker so tightly that no one could get through. I furrowed my brows. "Uncle, I don't want to." Ryan Parker wrapped his arm around my shoulder and smiled. "Uncle, don't worry. I'll take good care of Maddie." I struggled. But he was too strong, and I felt a bit panicked. Fortunately, after a brief half-minute, he let go of me and continued to chat with the guests with ease. I felt complicated. After Ryan Parker finished chatting, I asked, "When did you start getting involved with my second uncle?" Ryan Parker slowly adjusted his tie. "Only with the Sang family's approval can I marry you. I had other plans. But your divorce saved me a lot of trouble." I looked at his face and felt he was terrifyingly unfamiliar. Ryan Parker smiled. "What? Don't you recognize me? Do you think the Ryan Parker in your mind is different from me?" In the past, I thought Ryan Parker's smile was bright and sunny, and that we were from the same world. But now it seems like I was wrong. He stepped forward, forcing me back inch by inch. Finally, my back was pressed against the glass door. "Madison, this is who I am." He forced a smile, which looked grotesque in the dim light. "Originally, neither of us should have let go. But I love you. As long as you come back, we can be like before. You don't want to end up like in our past life, dying alongside Alex. Do you?" My entire body trembled, instantly engulfed by overwhelming fear. "He knows everything?" Ryan Parker clearly noticed my dilated pupils and heavy breathing from fear. He leaned over me, placed his hand on the doorknob behind me, and pressed it gently. The door opened. The light and melodious violin music from the banquet drifted in. The light suddenly became bright. Ryan Parker smiled at me and mouthed the words, "Go back and enjoy the banquet. We'll meet another day." It wasn't until I walked into the crowd that I realized I was drenched in cold sweat. The bright, dazzling light made me dizzy. I slowly leaned against the staircase and followed my memory up to the second floor. At the end of the corridor was the room I had once lived in. I wanted to go in and rest. Almost as soon as I pushed the door open, someone covered my mouth and dragged me behind the door. The familiar scent filled the air, and Alex's deep voice filled my ears, tinged with a hint of alcohol. "Where did he touch you?" I lost all my strength and collapsed into Alex's arms. My whole body trembled lightly. Shoulder. Instantly, a scorching kiss landed on my shoulder. Twisting and tangling. Alex said nothing, patiently kissing away the sensation of his earlier touch, replacing it with his own mark, before finding my lips and biting them gently. The fear and tension finally began to fade under his soothing touch. I stood in the darkness, kissing him. After a long time, I blushed and whispered, "Are you jealous?" "Jealous enough to eat a whole vat of it." Alex's tone was heavy. "No one is allowed to touch you. Not anyone." He then tried to bite my shoulder. "Ah." I pushed him away. "We still have to go downstairs. What will people say if there's a tooth mark on my shoulder?" Seeing Alex frown, clearly unconvinced, I said, "They'll say I just got divorced and immediately moved on to Ryan Parker." "Do you want to hear such gossip?" He remained silent for a moment, unwilling to respond. "Then control yourself." I rested my head near his heart, hearing his strong, steady heartbeat, and said, "Ryan Parker has teamed up with my uncle, and they've even guessed my situation and made preparations against you. Are you sure you can handle it? Maddie. If the Sang family suffers a severe blow because of this, what will you do?" So that's what he was worried about. I held Alex's large hand. My parents were a business marriage, mutually despising each other. The year I was born, they abandoned me to my uncle and moved overseas separately. My uncle treated me as a tool to secure power for the family. If it weren't for you, I might have ended up married to a 70-year-old man. So don't worry about me. I wrapped my finger around his ring finger and noticed he had put his wedding ring back on without me noticing. It warmed my heart. If the Sang family really collapses, it's because my uncle did something despicable. He deserves it. Over the next few months, I returned to my working class life. After all, since I became an adult, I haven't taken a single penny from the Sang family. I've supported myself through hard work and frugality, and now I have a skill to make a living. Apart from being forced by my uncle to return and arrange a blind date with Ryan Parker, my life has been relatively peaceful. Evelyn was extremely dissatisfied. You've already cut ties with him. Why are you still following his orders? I didn't explain. Ryan Parker knew my situation. As long as I didn't comply with his wishes, he would instigate my uncle to sabotage Alex. We had to keep things stable before Alex could bring them down. Moreover, Ryan Parker gave me the choice of where to meet, so I picked a busy downtown area during the day, which was relatively safe. Evelyn loved watching TV. Lately, Alex had been appearing frequently on the financial news channel. Every time she saw him, she would berate him. What a scoundrel! Madison, you must let me see your second husband before you marry him. She held the remote control like she had Parkinson's, pointing at Alex's handsome face, her voice breaking. A man like that is no good. If I let you marry him, I'd rather eat shit upside down. I emerged from a pile of design drafts and said awkwardly, don't be so absolute. You have to leave yourself some wiggle room. All right. I'll drag you along to eat with me. Due to Evelyn's strong opposition, I had to sneak around just to see Alex. It was deep winter, and a heavy snow had just fallen. I was wearing a thick sweater and carrying a garbage bag as I emerged from the stairwell. Alex's car was parked downstairs. It was freezing cold, but he was standing outside waiting for me. He was wearing the wool coat I bought for him and had brought the scarf I bought as well. Come here. He waved at me. I skipped over, jumped into his arms, and made a shushing gesture with my fingers. Keep your voice down. Let's get in the car. What's wrong? My best friend now thinks you're a total jerk. I dragged him into the car like a thief. The car lights went out, and darkness enveloped us. Only the streetlights in the distance cast shadows on the white snow. I wrapped myself in my thick down jacket and fumbled around in my pocket for a pair of woolen gloves. For you. Alex smiled and took the gift seriously. Mrs. Sure. I already have so many pairs. You don't like them? I reached out to take them back, but he was quick to snatch them away. Thank you. I really like them. Actually, we don't have much in common, but we just have so much to talk about. I leaned lazily against his shoulder, rubbing against him. My best friend said that if she dared to marry someone like you in her second marriage, she would. What would she do? Those words were too vulgar for me to say, so I brushed it off casually. Anyway, it would be something disgusting. I sighed. I could already imagine her beating me up. Alex laughed and took my hand. Why don't you find someone else? Alex! I pushed him away angrily. What are you talking about? He lowered his eyes and silently wrapped my hand in his. His fingers were long and perfect, big enough to cover both of my hands. I want to stay with you. I felt gloomy, and my forced cheerfulness instantly wilted. I don't know what's wrong with me lately. I keep having nightmares. Every time I dream, Alex tells me to live my life alone. When I wake up, my eyes are swollen from crying. Maddie. I mean, if. He paused. One day, I suddenly break up with you. Before he could finish, my tears fell onto his hand, cutting him off. A sigh came from above, and Alex hugged me, rubbing my head. It was just a metaphor. Even metaphors can be scary. I spoke in a dull tone. I've never been loved by my parents since I was a child, so I tend to like anyone who is kind to me. Ryan Parker was like that at first, but things changed later. Loving someone brings joy and sorrow. My feelings for you are more than that. I want you to be happy. When I see others have something, I want you to have it too. I care about what I say. Afraid of making you unhappy. My emotions seem intertwined with yours. So when you say we should part ways, it hurts deeply. Alex kissed my hair, sighed, and said, Maddie, you love me. Can we not break up? You said you wouldn't refuse my requests. He hummed in agreement, patting my back comfortingly. All right. We won't break up. The next morning, I emerged from the bedroom with puffy eyes. Evelyn had a pork cutlet in her mouth. Did you cry last night? Yeah. Can you get me an ice pop? She got up and went to the kitchen, pulling out an expired ice pop from the bottom of the freezer and shoving it against my eyelid. I saw you get into a luxury car last night. I applied the ice and remained silent. She rolled her eyes. So you're back with him? Letting your ex-husband humiliate you? Crying all the time. Hiding under the covers crying over a man. Look at you. Such a loser. It's not like that. He's a good guy. Stop it. She dug in her ears. If I hear you saying nice things about him again, I'll throw you out. I gave up struggling, picked up my bowl, and took a sip of soy milk. I puffed out my cheeks and stared blankly at my best friend. Swallow it. Your brain must have run off with that man. You can't even eat your food? Pfft. I spat it out exactly as it was. And before she could scold me, I had already run to the bathroom to vomit. She came back with a face covered in soy milk. Cursing, brought a glass of water, patted my back, and said, Heaven, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. I'll call an ambulance. I grabbed her. Don't. Oh my God. Get away. Do you know how bad you look? I held onto her tightly and said, I'm pregnant. What the hell? She suddenly stopped and said, Damn. A few minutes later, she dragged me into a taxi. Ryan Parker called. Maddie, where are you? I suddenly remembered I had a date with him today. I'm sorry. I have an emergency. Where are you? Send me the address. Evelyn knew I didn't like him, so she snatched the phone and turned it off. Such a big deal. And you're keeping it from him? Fine. Madison, you're really something. Better to turn it off. At least it's safe. I sighed and said, Keep this a secret. Don't tell your family. I'm afraid the Sang family will find out. She was sulking and didn't want to talk to me. After a while, she asked, Are you just going to have it? Yeah. All right. You give birth. And I'll be the child's aunt. Women hold up half the sky, we can certainly raise a child. The taxi was playing the news. We listened for a while, then fell silent. The Sang family is in trouble. It was exposed this morning. It involves a serious construction site safety accident from long ago. The Schur family, as the partner at the time, was also implicated. My best friend gripped my hand, looking at me with concern. I shook my head. It's nothing. I didn't expect Alex to act so quickly. The other scandals involving the Sang family that were exposed one after another were like straws piling up on a camel's back, waiting for the last one to break and send it crashing down. Recalling my past life, my uncle had been the mastermind behind the explosion, instigating Mr. Vance to carry it out. The weight on my heart, which had been hanging for so long, gradually eased. This time, it happened 10 years earlier. Alex's business empire was at its peak, and my uncle's accumulated wealth hadn't grown to an alarming extent. It shouldn't happen again, right? There weren't many cars on the road today, and the driver was driving steadily. We were halfway through the journey when my eyelids started to feel heavy. I decided to lean against Evelyn for a moment and rest, planning to wake her when we arrived. Before I could hear her response, I fainted. After a while, a voice echoed from a distant place. Madison, open your eyes for me. The piercing sound of metal scraping woke me from my sleep. I felt my limbs grow heavy. Slowly opening my eyes, I saw concrete pipes and Evelyn leaning against them. The wind blew, carrying the pungent smell of industrial oil and sand. I got up from the ground in a daze. Evelyn kicked her legs in vain. Behind her, there was a creaking sound. Emma. Thank God. Hurry up and untie me. Realizing that we were in an unfamiliar place and had been tied up, I hurried over, knelt down, and saw the thick hemp rope binding her. Familiar memories flooded back. I suddenly looked up, surveyed the surroundings, and cold sweat poured down my face. This wasn't the abandoned factory where I had died a violent death in my previous life. The rope was tied in a tight knot, impossible to untie, so we could only try to wear it down. The creaking sound of steel echoed throughout the entire building. Evelyn cursed. Dare to kidnap me? I bet they don't want to live anymore. After grinding at the rope for a while, it didn't even get any thinner. She leaned weakly against the stone slab. Madison, stop struggling. They tied me up but not you. That means I'm their target. While no one's around, you should escape and find someone to call the police. I smiled bitterly. I'm sorry. This time, I've dragged you into this. What do you mean? Before I could finish, Ryan Parker's voice suddenly came from behind me. Your girlfriend sure is loud. Evelyn peeked out, and I quickly covered her eyes. Turning back, I stared at Ryan Parker and said, she knows nothing. Let her go. Evelyn couldn't hold back anymore. You bastard. I clearly told you I'm from the Yu family. You dare to kidnap me? When my father finds out, you'll be in big trouble. Ryan Parker's expression darkened after hearing this. I said, you heard her. This is our business. There's no need to involve the Yu family. Evelyn's family is in politics, and her older brother is a police officer. She's always been fearless since she was a child. If something happens to her, no one will survive. Ryan Parker threw me a utility knife. Cut the rope. Don't move. Otherwise, no one will get out of here alive. I hurriedly picked it up and freed Evelyn from the ropes. Don't look at anything. Go home and stay there. Evelyn frowned and whispered, is this a trap? I'll go out and call the police. Calling the police is fine, I said softly. But I feel like they're desperate and don't care about the police anymore. Thinking back to the explosion in my previous life, I pushed my best friend aside. One more out is one more chance. She gripped my shoulders. Madison, wait for me. I'll have the police come to save you. With that, she ran out without looking back. The empty room was left with only me and Ryan Parker. I stood up and met Ryan Parker's dark gaze. What do you want? What are you doing? He countered. Stomachache. Get some medicine. Ryan Parker curled his lips into a mocking smile. Madison. Don't treat me like an idiot. He grabbed me by the arm, dragged me to the window, and forced my chin down to look out. Let's see who's coming. Downstairs, a man was being held at gunpoint by my uncle. I recognized Alex immediately, and my heart sank. Ryan Parker chuckled. When the police arrive, they'll find Alex's body. Your uncle won't escape either. My heart was racing. My fingertips were ice cold, and I was trembling slightly. But the more I showed I cared about him, the more dangerous it became. I closed my eyes. I had divorced him. What happened to him was none of my business. Is that so? Ryan Parker coldly looked down at the scene and said, Uncle sang. Shoot him in the leg. Bang! A gunshot rang out. Alex's thigh began to bleed profusely. He knelt down on one knee, looking up at me and Ryan Parker. His face pale. Ryan Parker. I'm here. Let her go. Ryan Parker ignored him and turned to me, saying, Maddie, are you happy? I was numb all over, unable to speak. Uncle sang. The second one. I suddenly grabbed his hand, trembling, and said, No. Please don't. Ryan Parker's smile vanished instantly. His fingers clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Alex's eyes were dark and his forehead was sweating. Don't scare her. Ryan Parker's eyes were cold and terrifying. He challenged Alex with his gaze, then lifted my chin and kissed me. His dry lips and fierce force made me feel nauseous, and I struggled violently. He said, Do you want him to die? I froze in place. Ryan Parker pressed his lips tightly against mine, grinding them. Nausea rose from my stomach, and I pushed him away violently, kneeling on the ground and vomiting uncontrollably. Do it, Ryan Parker ordered coldly. A gunshot rang out downstairs, and my mind went blank. I scrambled to the window. Alex! The image of him lying in a pool of blood did not appear. It was my uncle. He had been shot in the back and was lying on the ground. Alex's left hand was dripping blood. In the distance, a group of armed police were rushing in, quickly surrounding the area. Ryan Parker's expression changed, and he suddenly grabbed my collar and pulled me back into the concrete pillar on the second floor. Outside the window, the police were shouting at Ryan Parker. He hadn't expected the police to arrive so quickly. Ryan Parker choked me, hiding in a blind spot where the sniper couldn't see us, and shouted, I have explosives. Let Alex come in to see me. Otherwise, I'll take her with me. I opened my mouth, gasping for breath, feeling dizzy. Ryan Parker, calm down. I'm calm. In your previous life, you were willing to die with Alex. Why can't you do the same for me now? I desperately tried to pry his hands off me. I don't want to. Ryan Parker's voice grew increasingly agitated. I could have saved everything. Why did you have to come back too? Give me back the original Madison. I reached out helplessly as the light before my eyes began to fade. Ryan Parker. A familiar, deep voice came from a few steps away. I'm here. Let her go. The pressure on my neck suddenly vanished. I bent over, coughing violently, my eyes blurred with tears, clinging to life as I looked at Alex and instinctively reached out my hand toward him. The bloodstains on his legs had already dried, and his hands were wrapped in bandages, looking even more disheveled than in my previous life. From the moment he stepped onto the second floor, his eyes had been fixed on me, afraid that something might happen to me. Ryan Parker pulled me back a few steps, pulled out a knife, and held it to my throat. Alex. This time, let's try something different. He pointed to a leather jacket nearby and said to Alex, Put it on. That jacket was all too familiar to me. No. I can't wear it. I struggled violently, my voice breaking for the first time. No. Ryan Parker laughed maniacally. Maddie, in my previous life, Alex dared to die with you. What about you? How much do you love him? No. I clawed wildly at Ryan Parker's wrist. He grabbed me, sneering. Do you think he can beat me? What good is it that he protected you? If you don't come out, I can still open the door and tie you up. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Today, either he dies or you do. Alex didn't hear our whispered conversation. Keep the knife away from her. I'll wear it. Alex. Go. I cried hoarsely, begging him. Alex seemed not to hear me, staring at the blood droplets pierced by the knife tip, quickly putting on his clothes. A drop fell. The countdown began. I closed my eyes in despair. Ryan Parker suddenly pushed me forward. Madison. Choose one. I stood between the two of them, crying as I took a step toward Alex, who stepped back half a step. "Maddie, don't come over here," Alex said solemnly. "There's a bomb." I stood where I was, unable to take another step. I wasn't afraid of dying, but at that moment, choosing Alex in front of him would only escalate Ryan Parker's emotions. It might even trigger the bomb prematurely. "Madison, admit it. You only love yourself. You're just like your uncle, selfish and heartless." Ryan Parker sneered and added a taunt from the side. Alex retreated to the window, glanced at me, then spoke. "Ryan Parker, I'm sorry about your father. You don't deserve to mention my father." Ryan Parker, who had been watching the spectacle, was suddenly enraged and took a step forward. "You spoiled brats born with a silver spoon in your mouths, do you have even a shred of sincerity? But your father did violate regulations back then, he didn't wear a helmet. We compensated you accordingly." "Shut up." Alex curled his lips into a mocking smile. "You're just another incompetent fool." My whole body was trembling. This world has gone mad. Every word Alex spoke hit Ryan Parker where it hurt the most. Does he want to die? Ryan Parker pulled out a lighter from somewhere, threw it on the ground, and an intense fire erupted instantly. The smell of motor oil in the air was because Ryan Parker had already poured it there earlier. "It's all your fault." Ryan Parker, his eyes bloodshot, walked toward me. His face, still not fully healed, looked terrifying in the flames. "Madison, why didn't you choose me? If you had told me you didn't like disfigurement, I wouldn't have been so harsh on myself." A bucket of cold water was poured over his head. It was really him. "You're crazy." "Yes. If I hadn't done this, how would I have used your guilt to find out about Alex?" Ryan Parker had been lying low for years, but now he had finally torn off his gentle facade to reveal his obsessive inside. His laughter sounded like a broken bellows, piercing and unpleasant. "Maddie, if you had chosen me, this wouldn't have been the outcome. You have only yourself to blame for where we are now. Come with me to hell." He pulled out a remote control. Without thinking, I turned and threw myself onto Alex, clinging tightly to him. "Madison!" Alex roared. And the next moment, bang! With the shattering sound of broken glass. I couldn't hear anything. Buzz. 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 The sharp ringing in my ears felt like a needle constantly piercing my brain. Before my eyes was Alex's pale face, still trying to say something to me. I felt as though I had been blown to pieces. My entire body was numb, and I had no strength left. But dying with him, I wasn't afraid at all. Not afraid? Why was I crying? The deafness lasted only a moment. The next second, a deafening roar like an atomic bomb exploded in my ears. "The suspect has been neutralized. Body found on the second floor of an abandoned factory. A small team reports that the explosive device is intact and the hostages are safe. No other suspicious explosives were found at the scene. The fire is intense. Notify relevant personnel to evacuate with the hostages immediately." I was being carried away. As I turned back, I saw Ryan Parker lying on the ground, facing away from me. He was dead. A hand covered my eyes. The cold air cleared the smoke from my nostrils. Sirens wailed in the distance. Red and blue lights flashed, reflecting the setting sun. My legs gave way, and I knelt in the snow, trembling uncontrollably. Evelyn's curses sounded like heavenly music to my ears. This is the 21st century. A society governed by the rule of law. They've conducted several anti-vice and anti-crime campaigns. Yet they still use explosives. These outlaws should all be arrested, sentenced to life imprisonment, or executed with a single bullet so their mothers wouldn't recognize them. Brother, they've all been caught. Don't let them get away. All right. Go check on Madison. We'll handle the rest. Evelyn spotted me kneeling in the snow and screamed. Madison. Get up. You have a child. Don't crawl around on the ground. Alex, who was helping the police defuse the bomb, suddenly froze and turned to stare at me. Before Evelyn could reach us, he took off his leather jacket, picked me up without a word, and carried me toward the car, his face expressionless. Hey. Who are you? Don't you even say hello? Bang! The car door shut out Evelyn's protests. He shoved me into the back seat, got in himself, and glared at me with a dark expression. I suddenly felt scared and shrunk into the corner. Don't do this. I'm scared. You're scared and still dared to come over? Do you think this is a game of hide and seek? After a brief silence, he unleashed a torrent of abuse. Alex had never spoken to me in such a harsh tone before, and tears immediately welled up in my eyes. The bomb is on me. He was so angry that the veins on his forehead bulged. What if Ryan Parker pressed the button? Seeing that he was about to speak again, I closed my eyes and collapsed into his arms. Oh no. I fainted from fear. Alex choked, took a deep breath, and his veins on his forehead throbbed violently. He suddenly hugged me tightly, and at that moment, I realized his hands were trembling. I'm sorry. I was the one who spoke harshly just now. He ruffled my hair, rubbing it, trying to calm his voice. I was actually planning to jump out the window. That way, even if the sniper missed and the explosion happened, it wouldn't hurt you. But why did you rush over and hug me? I've never seen you this strong before. I didn't think that much. I've seen it on TV, when there's a bomb. You lie down. I couldn't just hug Ryan Parker. Could I? Alex was speechless, not knowing what to say. Thankfully, we're both still alive. Are your wounds bandaged properly? I asked. Yeah. I don't believe you. Let me see. Maddie. He laughed and cried. It's on your thigh. I pulled down his pants without hesitation. We're an old married couple. What are you shy about? Evelyn's voice came through the glass. Muffled. Yes. I think my friend is being abused. Her husband kidnapped her. Your friend at the Women's Federation can help, right? She said, pulling open the car door. Light poured in. I knelt on either side of Alex's thighs, my hands on his belt, unbuckling it halfway. Evelyn held up the phone, stared at us expressionlessly for 3 seconds, then suddenly closed the door. Oh, and the dog was abused. Do you guys handle that? We won't go to the Women's Federation anymore. We'll contact the Animal Protection Association. When Alex and I had our wedding ceremony, Evelyn sat at the head table. She didn't seem to eat much. When it was time to toast, Alex spoke politely. I've always heard Maddie talk about you. She said that if she remarried me, something bad might happen. Under his probing gaze, she recalled her bold words at the time, if I remarry him, I'll eat shit upside down. She looked at me, and I looked at her. We were speechless. I just mentioned it offhand. Who knew Alex had such a good memory? Evelyn smiled, raised her glass, and said, well, it's all in the past. I mentioned it. So, I'll just wish you two a happy marriage. Alex smiled slightly and said, thank you. After the toasts, I followed Alex closely, muttering to myself, it's all in the past. Why did you bring it up? He laughed and said, I was curious. Really curious? Yes. I hesitated for a moment, then suddenly broke into a smile. Come closer. I'll tell you a secret. I hugged him and whispered in his ear. Alex's handsome brows relaxed, and a hint of a smile flickered in his eyes. I laughed so hard my stomach hurt. What if she really did that and dragged me along to eat with her? Mr. Reynolds. Would you even care about your reputation? Ha ha ha. The entire hall echoed with my joyful laughter. Alex just looked at me, his gaze so tender it could melt butter. After the wedding banquet, guests could explore the seaside resort at their leisure. In the evening, I took off my wedding dress, put on loose-fitting clothes, and wore a straw hat with a floppy brim. Alex held my hand, and we skipped and jumped along the sandy beach. You always said you'd take me to the beach, but you never did. You mean... Oh, you mean when you were 38? I blurted out. Alex furrowed his brows, looking a bit older. You're not old. I savored the words, smacking my lips. You were still handsome at 38. Just a bit more reserved, but still irresistible. At 38, Alex had gained some maturity, but he was still enough to make someone go crazy with desire. Alex looked deep in thought, and the rest of the time, he seemed distracted when talking to me. In the evening, as soon as I entered the bedroom, I was detained. A dangerous aura approached from behind, and the heat of his chest made me shiver. Click. I was locked up. Alex's cold voice was tinged with desire. Does that old man understand you like I do? I froze, suddenly realizing why he had been acting strange all day. He was jealous. I burst out laughing. Hey, you. Alex grabbed my chin and looked at me in the mirror, his eyes like hooks. Can't resist teasing? He chuckled softly. That's because he can't. You. Don't say that. You're defending him? That voice clearly sounded like a jealous person. No. It's not like that. I'm about to cry. Will you still try to prove yourself in 10 years? Alex paused, then said seriously. In principle, you're right. The two of you are competing. Why am I the one suffering? He ignored me, staring expressionlessly at my reflection in the mirror. I wanted that old man to see. I covered my face in shame. Don't say anymore. Alex kissed me, whispering softly, Maddie, you're mine. That night might have been the moment in my life with the highest emotional intelligence. I had to admit that he was more skilled than a 38-year-old man, and he kept reminding me that even at 38, he was still very skilled. It was late at night. Moonlight filtered through the window curtains, falling on his side of the face. Alex was already asleep. I gently touched his face, feeling warm inside. Once upon a time, I had held the hand of 38-year-old Alex countless times, sighing that if only we had been together sooner. For 10 whole years, we lived as two strangers in pain. Over those 10 years, I think I must have felt something for him too. On those late nights when he quietly covered me with a blanket, there was a moment when I wanted to hold him tight and say, let's make up. But Ryan Parker's accident had already become a thorn in my heart. Those feelings I didn't even want to admit to myself would flare up, and the thorn would pierce my heart deeply, reminding me that Alex had harmed my family. Perhaps it was suppressed for too long. So when the misunderstanding was cleared up, love poured out, allowing me to experience a brief yet romantic period of infatuation. I loved him longer than I ever thought I could. Maddie, why are you awake? Alex's voice was still hoarse from sleep. I cupped his face and leaned in, placing a very light kiss on his lips. I love you. Under my palm, Alex's heart began to race again. I couldn't help but tease him. I love you too. He caught my escaping lips, took control, and deepened the kiss. I was overwhelmed by his sudden passion. Hey, what's wrong with you? I just had a dream. Huh? Alex opened his eyes, his gaze hiding emotions too complex to discern, like a black storm on the verge of erupting. I dreamed of our past lives. I held my breath. Really? Yes. He gently untangled my messy hair. as if admiring a precious treasure. Madison, I'm so glad we have another chance to start over. The night was still young, the moonlight shy, and the wind lingered. Warm fragrance drifted, blowing the window curtains and ringing the wind chimes in the corner of the house. It was the sound of heartbeats echoing. I transformed into a gentle sea, embracing the moon, and whispered softly, "When did you start liking me? Will you marry me?" The moon said, "No. I've liked you for a very long time."